this phase, we're going to explore the idea of forgiveness and integrate a forgiveness practice into your 6-phase meditation. There are 3 R's that negatively influence our state of being in the world. These are resentment, rejections, regrets. These are things that happened in the past. We can't go back and fix them, but the memory of them poisons us in a certain way. The question is, how do you get rid of this poison? The answer is forgiveness. Science defines forgiveness as follows. Forgiveness, at a minimum, is a decision to let go of the desire for revenge and ill will towards the person who wronged you. It may also include feelings of goodwill towards the other person. But you see, forgiveness is not just about making yourself feel better, about forgetting a hurt. Once again, scientists who are studying forgiveness have found that it actually has really interesting effects on your body. One study showed that people could improve their vertical jump after doing forgiveness exercises. I shared this with an NBA basketball player. He immediately signed up to take a forgiveness meditation class. Another study showed that people have higher levels of endurance when they are asked to march up and down a hill after they've practiced forgiveness exercises. Now, we don't know why this is happening, but forgiveness seems to have beneficial effects, not just on our state of mind, but on our actual physical body. Other studies show that forgiveness creates decreased levels of anger and hostility. It increases feelings of love. It enhances your ability to trust other human beings. And it frees you from negative memories of the past. When you practice forgiveness, you make yourself rather than someone else responsible for something negative that happened in the past. A survey showed that people in psychotherapy sessions who practice forgiveness show much better results than people who do not. Another study showed that forgiveness actually improves your heart health. Another study showed that forgiving someone actually improves your blood pressure, your heart rate, and the workload of your heart. Think about that. Forgiveness isn't metaphorically improving your heart, it's physically changing the health of your heart system. So I stumbled upon forgiveness quite by accident. I'd been invited to take part in an experiment at an institute called the Bio-Cybernaut Institute. It was founded by a scientist called Jim Hart. And what Jim Hart was doing was he was using brainwave monitors to train people to attain deep levels of meditation, the type of levels of meditation that, say, you would be able to get into if you've been meditating like a Zen Roshi monk for 20 to 40 years. And so what he was doing was analyzing the brainwave states of monks, of billionaires, of people who had displayed high levels of creativity or intuition to understand what were these states that people were seeing in their head, and how could we use biofeedback equipment to train people to hit the same level of meditation-ness as a Zen Roshi monk through reverse engineering these brainwave states. Altogether, a really interesting experiment. Now, there were 2 particular states that I was being measured on. One is coherence between both hemispheres of the brain. The other, alpha amplitude. So the idea was I was going to spend 5 days in a chamber with biofeedback equipment, about 5 hours a day for 5 days. And what I had to do was experiment with putting myself into different states of meditation so I could make this equipment show that my alpha wave amplitude was going up and my coherence was going up. These were desirable states based on studies of high-level meditators. Now, here's the interesting bit, right? After studying thousands upon thousands of people, Jim Hart found that there was one surefire way to attain these heightened brain states, and it was the practice of forgiveness. And so, in those 5 days, all he asked me to do was to forgive and forgive and forgive. I had to forgive everyone in my life, including family members I dearly love, like my own son, because somewhere in the past, something happened that I still had a tiny little grudge about. And it seems weird, right? But we hold these little pinpricks of grudges against even people we dearly love. And so forgiveness, they found, was a way to put yourself into heightened states of consciousness. But here's a couple of crazy things that happen. Sometimes I guess life unfolds in mysterious ways. And a few months before I spent time at this lab studying my brain on forgiveness, I actually ended up receiving a situation in my life that I really needed to forgive. I discovered that someone whom I trusted to run one of my company operations had been skimming money. and he had stolen over 100 grand. It was a horrible case. I felt completely betrayed. I had to report the guy to the police, and this was a guy who had worked with me for about 4 years. And upon filing a complaint with the police, he started threatening me and other employees in a way that it was just awful. And after 4 days of forgiving everyone in my life, I saved him for last because I was really furious. I was really angry. This guy had betrayed my trust. He had stolen from our company. He had made subtle little threats to me, my family, and other employees. How could I possibly forgive this guy? But I was pressed on to try anyway. And so I had to do this forgiveness ritual. And something strange happened. As I started bringing him to mind, as I started forgiving him, I heard a loud beep. And when I opened my eyes in that chamber, I'd hit my new high score in terms of alpha amplitude. I'd never hit that score before in the prior 4 days, but I finally hit it when I was able to forgive this man who I felt had so wronged me. And that was my key lesson in forgiveness. It was that no matter how bad the wrong, you can apply forgiveness. Now, the weird effects I experienced in that lab didn't stop there. I was in that lab with several really influential people. It was an expensive study. We were paying around 15 grand each to go through these 5 days of having our brains hooked up to machines studying our brain states. Now, there was another person with me, and we were all staying at the same hotel. And one morning, as we were going on to day 4, day 5, I forget the exact day, he came to me with this strange look in his face, and he showed me his phone, and he says, "Vishen, I can't believe this." And I go, "What happened?" And he said, "Look, I was trying to forgive a family member who had sexually abused me as a child. This happened when I was 10 years old. I'm now in my 50s. It's been 4 decades, and I still feel so wronged by this, and I still feel so angry and upset. And this abuse had led to years and years and years of addiction and negative self-worth and me just doing destructive things in my life. And so I chose to spend the last couple of days focusing on forgiving this person. And today something weird happened. Even though I hadn't spoken to this person in months, today he sent me an email saying that he was sorry for what he did to me. And attached to that email was a link to a YouTube video. He actually put up a private video on YouTube expressing how sorry he was and asking me to forgive him. This was mind-blowing. Now, we don't know why this happened, can't explain it, but perhaps at some subtle level, because we're all connected, this man's family member who abused him felt he needed to apologize and felt that he too needed to heal the situation. It changed the way we perceive forgiveness. Now, the scientists at this lab laid out a number of rules for us to understand before we do this forgiveness exercise. I want to share these rules with you. The first is, yes, you can forgive everything and anything, because forgiveness is not the same as pardoning. You're not pardoning a criminal who may have wronged you. You're forgiving them, meaning you are changing your internal state towards the situation. Now, this also means horrible acts, criminal acts. And that leads us to rule number 2. Forgiveness is not pardoning. You're not pardoning someone for doing something that could be against the law. You're forgiving them, which means you're deciding that you are not going to let that act negatively impact you. It doesn't mean that you're going out and giving them flowers or pardoning them or making sure it's okay. No, if they did something really bad, forgiveness is not pardoning. Forgiveness simply is your state of how you want to think back about what happened in the past. You can't change the past, but you can change your feelings about it. Rule number 3, forgiveness frees you. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this to free yourself. And rule number 4, the other party does not have to forgive you in return. If you had a fight with your spouse, you can go straight into this forgiveness exercise to make yourself feel free. You do not need them to do the same exercise. Forgiveness starts with you. Now, here's how you're going to do the forgiveness exercise. Now, firstly, forgiveness is part of the 6th phase because it is one of the most powerful attributes for raising your mental state, for improving your mind, for making yourself a more powerful person in the world. When I left that center with the various people there who were training their brains in forgiveness, we all got in a WhatsApp group and we stayed in touch with each other. And a couple of weeks later, one of the guys I was there with sent me a message with a quote from the internet. And he says, guys, I think forgiveness just made us unfuckwithable. And it was this cute little image art on the internet with the words unfuckwithable. And the description below that word was exactly what forgiveness makes you. It said, unfuckwithable, adjective, when you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself, and nothing anyone says or does can bother you, and no negativity or drama can touch you. I love that word. We can all be a little more unfuckwithable in life. So here's how the forgiveness exercise in the 6 phase is going to work. Firstly, when you start this, don't try to pick someone who may have seriously wronged you in the past. Pick something easier. Look, maybe it was a tiny little argument with your spouse. Maybe it was a waiter who was rude to you. Maybe it was a coworker who did something slightly off that maybe ruined your moment at work that day. Pick something easy. Now, the first step is you've done phase 1, which is compassion. You've done phase 2, which is gratitude. So you've strengthened your own being at this point. So when you get to forgiveness, you're already pretty solid. Compassion levels high, gratitude and appreciation levels high. Now you're ready to forgive. First part of the exercise, you see the space where this person has wronged you. It could be the office, it could be a basketball court, it could be your own living room. Second, you see this person. Now you really see them. Imagine their face. See yourself looking at them in the eye. And for a brief moment, feel the pain that they caused you. Feel that pain. 30 seconds, that's it. It's okay to bang on your pillow. It's okay to feel angry. Feel that pain. But try not to do it for more than a minute or so. 30 seconds is ideal. Now, when you're done feeling that pain, continue looking at them in the eye and try to push yourself to extend your levels of empathy to them, to try to understand why did they do what they did. Why was that waiter rude? Maybe he had a fight with his wife that morning. Why was your spouse in an argument with you? Maybe he or she was stressed out about something. Why did that coworker dump that project on you and not fulfill his part of that role? Who knows? Maybe he doesn't have the same levels of discipline as you do. Force yourself to try to understand what that other person might be going for. This is the basics of human empathy. Now, a couple of things help in this situation. Remember the phrase, hurt people hurt people. People who hurt you are often doing it because they too got hurt. That's the crazy thing about hurt. We hurt someone, we create ripples of hurt that move on. So ask yourself, how could they have been hurt in the past? And are you willing to cut that line of hurt? Now, the second thing is understand that in any situation where you got hurt, you are going to learn something from that situation. Every bit of hurt makes us a stronger person. So now, think about what you may have gained. From that person who stole from my company, well, I learned the importance of better fiscal management and tighter security measures. Think about what you could gain, what you could learn from this situation. And now, you're going to forgive them. And forgiveness doesn't stop at you simply saying, I forgive you. You want to feel them in front of you. You want to see their eyes. You want to see their face. And you want to forgive into love. Here's what this phrase means. It means forgive to the point where you could mentally see yourself hugging and embracing this person and almost being grateful that they entered your life. Now, I know this sounds challenging, but understand that it is not